In 1855, a handful of men carried fragile instruments into the frozen Himalayas, chasing invisible lines across unmapped peaks, where a single mistake could vanish them forever, and every measurement reshaped the known world.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science, passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
In 1855, the task of mapping the territories of the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir passed into the hands of the Great Trigonometrical Survey. Lieutenant Montgomery of Engineers was placed in charge of the work, a responsibility that marked the beginning of the first systematic survey of a region long known more through travelers' tales than measured ground. Maharaja Gulab Singh, a Dogra chief who had ruled Jammu since 1820, under the Sikh Empire of Ranjit Singh, had acquired Kashmir in 1846 after the British defeat of the Sikhs. Earlier efforts to map the country had been fragmentary. Trebek's surveys from 1820 to 1823, made during William Moorcroft's journey from Ladakh through Kashmir, had been the first serious attempt. After the Treaty of Lahore in 1846, Alexander Cunningham and Henry Strachey added rough sketches of Ladakh and its borders, but large areas remained unmapped. By the mid-1850s, the Great Trigonometrical Survey was ready. A seasoned mountain party under William Johnson marched from Dehradun to Amritsar in February 1855 to meet Montgomery, who had already secured the Maharaja's approval. Montgomery's immediate task was to carry a chain of triangles from the plains east of Jammu across the Pir Panjal to the Kashmir Valley. The peaks rose above 15,000 feet and remained snowbound into summer. Through March and April, the surveyors worked in wintry conditions, camping for days on summits while waiting for clear views. Johnson was sent ahead to establish advanced stations, while Montgomery and Douglas followed with observations. Heavy instruments were abandoned in favor of lighter ones suited to the mountains. Heliotropes flashed from distant peaks, and when clouds intervened, lamps were used at night. On Peak Mont Mai, at 14,836 feet, Johnson and his men climbed more than 7,000 feet in deep snow in a single day. They endured snow blindness, electric storms, and weeks of isolation while building masonry pillars and observing between snowstorms. The signalman Daffodar Moli served there so faithfully that the station became known as Moli Hill Station on the charts. Despite frequent danger, the work produced striking results. From early observations, Montgomery estimated Nanga Parbat at about 26,700 feet and Nun Kun at about 23,400, far higher than earlier estimates of 20,000. By mid-July, the triangulation reached Srinagar, where the party rested before extending surveys up the Lidar and Sindh valleys. In autumn, the team returned to Dehradun for computations and preparation. The work expanded in 1856 and 1857 with new assistants and military officers. Secondary triangulation and half-inch detail surveys gradually covered the valley. From Haramuk in September 1856, Montgomery observed two distant Karakoram peaks, marking them as K1 and K2. Further observations in 1857 showed K2 to rise to about 28,000 feet, higher than any known peak except Everest. The years that followed were marked by steady progress and heavy loss. Brownlow was released for military duty and later died at Lucknow. Douglas was killed in a shooting accident at Srinagar. Gulab Singh died on August 2, 1857, but his son Ranbir Singh continued to support the survey. Despite the Indian Mutiny, the work in Kashmir went on uninterrupted. By 1859, the half-inch map of the Kashmir Valley was complete and praised in both Calcutta and London. The survey then pushed north into Baltistan and Ladakh. Johnson carried the main triangulation to Leh, while others extended minor networks for detailed mapping. Further measurements fixed K2 at 28,287 feet. From 1860 onward, Godwin Austen mapped the western Karakoram glaciers, while Johnson and others extended triangulation across Rupshu, Changchenmo, and the Kunlun. In November 1864, Montgomery reported the completion of the survey of the Maharaja's dominions. One final journey followed in 1865, when Johnson crossed into Khotan without permission, returning after a remarkable traverse of unknown country. Though officially rebuked, his journey was celebrated by geographers. With the publication of the maps, a vast and complex land had at last been brought into measured form, ending a decade of sustained and exacting work.